Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Francisco, and here's what he has to say. Hey Sandman, I'd love for you to make a video about lesbian divorce rates versus the gay divorce rates. Even they can't stand each other it seems. LMFAO. I believe men are more loyal. For your information, I'm also a straight male. I googled stats up with regards to the UK and they look very bad. Well, Francisco, thanks for your donation as well as your topic. But before I answer your question, let me tell you about today's ad sponsor, Ancient Purity. Tom has been going MGTOW for quite some time and doing video requests on my channel. He has also been selling dozens of different products like the ones that you see here. Most vitamins and minerals are poor, ineffective, and unabsorbable garbage. Ancient Purity follows the principle of super clean products that are absorbable and at a dose that works. They're also getting decent reviews on Amazon.com. Also, these aren't the chemicals they put in the water to turn the frogs gay.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
So visit ancientpurity.com today. Anyways, now on to my response to Francisco and the higher divorce rates between lesbian couples. There's an old joke that goes something like this. What do lesbians do on a second date? They rent a U-Haul truck or something along those lines. They tend to commit and move in a lot faster than straight couples. I'm not sure how quickly gay couples move in because I don't know enough of them. As for this U-Haul joke, I've actually had lesbians tell me this a few times. They were the ones that actually told me that joke in the first place. So I'm just parroting what I've heard elsewhere. As for the issue of lesbians divorcing more frequently than straight couples, there's data out in the UK to prove this. I also thought it was a good idea to share an article by a lesbian woman named Trish in the description. She discusses her experience with the same-sex marriage and subsequent divorce. In her article, she says that she was with her girlfriend at the age of 25. Less than a year and they were already living together. Sounds to me like she was a slowpoke compared to some of the other couples that I read about. She was also married in Iowa at the age of 27. She discusses how in the UK there were 112 same-sex divorces, and of those, 87 of those were by lesbian couples. The main reason being, of course, unreasonable behavior, including anything from being unfaithful to refusing to get a job. I call that term unreasonable behavior nothing more than plausible deniability. It's an umbrella term that can mean whatever you want it to mean. But apparently it now takes a team of sociologists to figure out that women have higher expectations in relationships than men do, and lesbian couples seem to rush into commitment. But it's all about the U-Hauls, folks. They should have actually kept track of who was renting those, and that would have been the smoking gun. The trend of lesbian couples ending their unions twice as often as gay men is seen in every country. The UK, America, Sweden, Norway, and many more. I also think it has to do with options. Women have a lot of options when they're younger, so if they aren't happy they can pretty much pick up, no pun intended, and move in with someone else. Trish married a much older woman and says this about her, and I quote, "She achieved some measure of the American dream, a successful career, a house, that likely fueled her desire to tie the knot, too." Unquote. I have a hunch that too is plausible deniability. Trish is potentially trying to distance herself from the idea that she found her former partner's material success appealing, and that her former partner found her youth and beauty appealing to boot. Trish might actually be virtue signaling that no, I'm not a gold digger. I've met lesbian couples with 10-year age gaps between them, and the younger ones quite often would have less assets and tended to be more attractive on the account of her age, while the older ones, well, they were just older. In one case, one couple broke up 10 years later and the formerly younger partner married a woman that was 10 years younger than her, and basically eventually divorced her as well. So the cycle repeated all over again. What I'm trying to say is just because two women are together doesn't mean that hypergamy and status-seeking behavior aren't present. With male-on-male relationships, many of those are open to begin with, and financially because guys make more money, they tend to make the finances in the union more stable. Perhaps the gender wage gap actually helps men if they stay together, don't have any children, and each make six figures. That will certainly take away a lot of stress with regards to such unions. I remember working in Canada's first gay and lesbian television show back in the 1990s before they got corporate sponsors. A few years later at the Gay Pride Parade in Toronto, all of the 5 or 6 major Canadian banks were supporting gay pride because they understood that gay couples have no children and have a lot of disposable income. That's why I've said in previous videos that MGTOWs are the new gays because no one wants to do business with us. Just look at YouTube demonetizing most of the MGTOW channels out there. In 5 or 10 years, once the birth rates collapse and there are tons of men going their own way with tons of cash in the bank, suddenly advertisers will be paying premiums to target us. But that's a topic for another day. Let me get back to this idea of why lesbian divorce rates are higher than any other group. The truth is that marriage sucks. Most of the women I've been with wanted me to take the lead in the bedroom to make them laugh, be thoughtful, and be romantic. When you have two women together, which one of them actually does that for the other if both of them are expecting the exact same thing? This is a concern that I've heard from lesbian couples before. I've had women that have played bumper cars with their mounds tell me that it's difficult when neither woman is in the mood, and neither woman wants to put in the effort. Two passive people doesn't make passion. Even Trish says that it's really important for both sides to put in the work. She also says earlier in the article that women need to lower their expectations. But towards the end of the article she says, I'm not going to lower mine. There's that pesky duality. I want to eat pies, but I want to stay thin. I want someone that's strong but vulnerable at the same time. I want someone that's good looking but dresses like a bum. It's all a contradiction. Traditionally, women have actually expected men to be their rock, their stability in the relationship, and if two women expect each other to be the rock-solid foundation of the relationship, that relationship is more likely to fail. In the case of Trish, she actually found a woman that was financially stable, and even that didn't actually help her. I don't know the reason their relationship ended, and I don't want to speculate. I also find it really interesting how lesbian women take certain elements of masculine culture as their own. In Toronto, they typically have their annual gay pride parade on a Sunday, and the Dyke March is the Saturday before. They realize that a lot of people come in from out of town to support gay men, so I guess they figure they might as well have it the same weekend. They also do masculine things like setting up organizations like Dykes on Bikes. The idea, I think, is to attract more feminine women by using masculinity. I saw the same thing with regards to Slut Walk. Many of the more masculine-presenting women would have behaved the way that you'd expect men to. But why not create their own visual language? Then there are also the femcells, involuntary female celibates, and they're trying to infiltrate and tone police incels online. I found that hard to believe that given that women will only chase the top 20% of men, that the bottom 20% of women would be looking for the bottom 20% of men out there, especially the thirsty true force loneliness types of guys. Does anyone really believe that? Or is it more likely that they just want to invade male spaces and hear what's being said so they can calm those men down from doing stupid things? Everyone knows that men's behavior changes when women are around. So if women show up on incel forums, those guys are no longer technically incels because there's some ghastly woman out there willing to do her part by getting on her back to prevent another van attack. Poor Elliot Rodger. He could have found MGTOW and learned to self-actualize and find meaning in his life. Or he could have found a hideous 300-pound hottie to worship at her cankles. But which situation would have been better to prevent the rampage that he went on? Which one would have worked? I don't think he would have actually gotten together with an unattractive woman to begin with. He probably would have thought that he was actually too good for her. Stopping incels by having unattractive women sacrifice themselves on that altar simply won't work. The femcells entering incel spaces might think that they will stop men from expressing their anger. But those men will ironically lose their outlets for their anger and do even more atrocious things off the internet and in real life, because they will lose their outlet for that anger. If you shovel garbage under a carpet, that doesn't mean that it's going to stop stinking. It just means you'll trip and fall face first from the bump under the rug and break your neotenous nose honey. It's more likely that the incel women are there looking for men that think they're incels but actually aren't. They're looking for half-eaten steaks under a pile of rat droppings. I also find it interesting that gay men that were beaten and kicked down when they fought for their own rights mostly in the 1970s and 1980s and are now benefiting women. But if you believe the reality that there are just as many lesbians as gay men out there as a percentage of the population, then where were all the masculine-presenting lesbians fighting alongside those guys in the past? I wouldn't be surprised if one day the organizers of pride parades just got rid of the Ladies' Day on Saturday and the Men's Day on Sunday, saying that they'll actually have two different parades on both days, trying to potentially attract the same crowd on both so the dykes just get as much attention. Maybe then some of the married same-sex ladies could get selfies with Justin Trudeau during the parade. That's what this is all about, attention and status. There are also lesbians out there that are direct opposition with regards to male incels. They see the lower attractive women out there in the marketplace as competition. Isn't it interesting how incels and dykes are fighting for the same 20-something 2s and 3s? What a time to be alive. Someone should actually make a film about a less than attractive 20-something-year-old woman in a love triangle with a 40-something-year-old wealthy dyke and an incel. That would add a whole new level of cringe to the romantic comedy genre. But I'm pretty sure that stuff like that happens already. My final thoughts on the lesbian divorce rate is that if divorce rates for gay men were much higher than for women, then women would use that statistic to show how much better they are than men. They might say, just look how reasonable we are to get along with when there are two women together. Men are the ones that have a problem getting married to one another. Yet at the same time, do you hear any stories about gay men rubbing their rhubarbs in the faces of lesbians saying, Look how much better we are and how much more stable our relationships are. It's not like gay men can't find another man to have sex with. Instead, my suspicion is that lesbian writers are using the gay gender marriage gap as a way to get attention and sympathy for themselves. It could also be quite reasonable to assume that gay men stay together longer because monogamy and commitment is something that's not as prevalent in that community as it is with straight couples. I know gay men that actually told me that gay men were going their own way a long time ago. Not because they couldn't find someone to have sex with, but because they couldn't find someone to have a stable, longer-term relationship with. So if gay men find a guy to commit to them, there might just be a great fear of losing that, so they might actually be more likely to stick it out with another dude long-term. No pun intended. Because their ability to find a replacement is probably rather limited. There really is no other dude to monkey branch to for marriage. But if you're a younger and more attractive lesbian, odds are that you can find a man or a woman to monkey branch to. Many of the lesbians I've known were actually quite bi, while many of the gay men never changed their orientations. I also don't really know the stats behind what I just said. I'm just speaking from personal experience. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Francisco, for the donation as well as the topic. Don't forget to smash the like button the way that many married lesbian women wait around for their partners to initiate the smashing process. Bang the bell and check out the MGTOW mystery link. Follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Subscribe to me on minds.com or gab.ai to get the video for the day after tomorrow. I'm also on BitChute. If you get any value from these sorts of videos, then please consider donating on Patreon, as this channel has been fully demonetized by YouTube. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills, and remember, a red pill a day keeps the bull dykes riding trikes away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.